Welcome back, guys. Today the deck video I have for you is the blue Seikuno deck that I use when I decide to play JJK. The action points I'm using are the Megami ones. 2 of them are foil, 1 are not, so we'll get started with the 0 drops. For zeros, we have the Yuji Itadoris. Need all those Yujis for the raid triggers and for the Seikuno fingers abilities down the line. Then we have the Nobara 0 drop. That one played, draw a card, trash a card. She comes in handy for early game draw, especially if you went first and you want that extra draw. That's what I tend to use these guys for. And in this deck, I tend to use it also to trash a finger that I have in hand if I can't play, if I don't have a Yuji down, because I don't want to take that life off of the finger. Then we have Takumi Ino. He's just a 0 drop, no benefit of playing him other than early game energy output. Then you can just push him later on to put a little pressure on your opponents. And then for 1 drops, we have 4 fingers, which do come in handy, especially when you want that draw and you have a Yuji out and you get to restand that action point that you use, so it basically becomes a free card. If you don't have a Yuji out, you gotta take a life, which I don't like, so I tend not to use it that often when there's no Yuji on board. And then we have the 1 drop Nobara. I usually use this to bounce the 0 drop Nobara until I can just replay or to redraw again. And then I run 2 Mekamis to do the top 2. I've hit 2 fingers off of her once, which was pretty funny because I've used her ability to put finger in hand, put finger in grave, and then played the finger the same turn. And 3 drop are the Yujis. These are the ones that get powered up if I have a Seikuno's finger in the sideline. And it's during my opponent's turn, so kind of you could use for a blocker. If you don't put them on the energy line, you put them up in the front. And these are the color triggers. I only run 2 color triggers because the 2 action point cost is kind of difficult to use. And sometimes his on play effect is pretty decent, but other than that, I don't use them that often. Then we have the 3 drop domain expansions. 4 of. It's just a action point restander that every color has. I run 2 malevolent shrines because that seems to be my good number for them. I've always ended up drawing into them or having them in my open hand. I've never had the issue where I didn't have one. The issue is I didn't have fingers in grave, which is this deck's main problem, is being built around that mechanic of having the fingers. And 4 divergent fists for removal. And then 4 of the 4 raid Yujis, kind of for the control factor if I'm bouncing something. And then 4 of these 4 drop Seikunos who search your library, who search the top cards for a finger. The most fingers I've had engraved were 3 with him, which pretty sweet, is the sweet number for him. The 5 drop Seikuno I don't use that often, and the same with the 6 drop. They're late game cards, and in combination with the shrine, they can be pretty hard to deal with. The bad matchups for this deck for me tend to be purple Code Geass and red Code Geass. Another one is, I believe, I've only lost once against green Code Geass for the Lancelot deck. I do want to give a shout out to my buddy Brandon, who is how I got the 4 alt arts for the Sekuna's Finger early in the set. And then he also gave me 3 Yujis. So he doesn't have a channel or anything, but still gonna give him a shout out for helping me out with building this deck. If you have any suggestions on how to, I know most other decks, if I say suggestions, most people are gonna say, oh, you should run the Nanabe package in here. I've tried it once with the Nanabe package and it didn't do that good for me. And this just seems to be, I tend to build decks to my playstyle. And I've rarely had to mulligan with this deck when I did use it. But I had switched to, now I switched to my green Karapika deck, which is the deck I tend to be top 4. Occasionally I get 5th. And that's usually on days where I'm not feeling too good. But if you had any suggestions on deck build, go ahead and just leave them in the comments. If you have any suggestions on what other TCGs I should look at, and go ahead and put them to the comment section. One TCG I won't look into is Yu-Gi-Oh! I used to play it. It got toxic in my area real quick. But other than that, any other TCGs I'm willing to try and give them a try. Like, I might build a Gundam deck here soon and just do my quick video of that, and probably build 2 so I can play with a buddy every once in a while and get us some gameplay video of that. But until then, see you guys in the future.